Hey guys, it's Fred. I watched about 30 seconds of this video and I realized that it's probably a video that I want to make a video about. This is Mike Elam's newest video he's just released, episode 143, the ambush car, missing proof for smoking gun. Let's watch it together. Sometimes my first response is the best. And I thought, well, instead of reviewing it, let's just watch it together. I'm gonna stop it periodically, no doubt. And let's see what we come up with.
Buford Pusser's Plymouth Fury 1, the car he drove to the state line on August 12, 1967. A missing piece of evidence, or the smoking gun that could have unraveled his entire story? Why did this critical vehicle seem to vanish so quickly after the alleged ambush? Did Buford realize that investigators might eventually...
Here we go. I can already tell where it's headed. He's gonna say that Buford got rid of the vehicle. He's gonna put this off on Buford. Guys, who's in charge of a criminal investigation? Who's in charge? They're certainly in charge now, aren't they? The TBI, the Highway Patrol. Wouldn't that be who's in charge? If there was something there, shouldn't they have confiscated the car? Let's go on. It's too early for me to start yet.
Analyze the bullet strikes and trajectories, only to discover that they didn't match his claim that the shots came from a shooter sitting in the passenger's front seat of a stationary Cadillac parked just feet away. Could the car itself have exposed the truth? Why is the TBI still in?
I don't know if the car would have exposed any more truth than what we see with the outcome. You've got Pauline dead and Buford shot, blood everywhere. That's a crime scene. You've got casings up and down the highway. You've got half of her head laying in a ditch line, according to Dennis Hathcock. You can't put this on Buford, guys. Buford was in the hospital for the first 18 days. They had 18 days to analyze this car, to get the trajectories. I'd love to know what the trajectory, especially that one there in the front, especially that one there at the bottom right of that picture in the windshield. I'd love to know the trajectory. Was that going up toward Pauline's head? How is that? Let's keep going. Interesting.
Interested in locating that very vehicle today.
Locating it today? Hey guys, it's 58 years later. You should have thought about locating that vehicle before you came out with this preposterous notion and accused Buford Pusser of murdering his wife and defaming him for the rest of eternity. You should have thought about that 58 years ago, but you definitely should have thought about it before you took to the stage and said, hey, let's defame this man. Let's replace his glory with ours. That's what it set out to be, and now the tide has turned. They realize that people across America are not accepting what they're selling, and now they're in search of the car.
And in its absence, even searching for an identical...
Oh, that will do it. Let's just get us an identical one. We'll know exactly how much wax was on the hood, how much dust was on the hood, how much gun does say.
Model to examine. Here's Mike to explain.
Yeah, I'd like to welcome everybody back to Buford Pusser, The Other Story. And today we have a really great episode, a special guest that you've never seen before. Someone who helped both me and the TBI out. Now, as many of you know, I've been working on investigating Pauline Pusser's murder for a long time. Compiled a lot of information, and I have a Facebook page, Buford Pusser, The Other Story. And through the years, I've used that Facebook page as a fishing hole to gather information about Pauline's murder.
Oh, wow. Look what a place to... If only the TBI would have thought about Facebook to try to solve a 58-year-old murder case. Look here. What a fishing hole. Rumors after rumors after rumors. Let's go to old Facebook.
And finally, one day I did have an individual contact me that said that he might have the gun that was used to kill Pauline.
And I'll bet you, Mike, got right on the phone and called the 911 or law enforcement agency and said, hey, I've got a fella on the phone that tells me that he's got a stolen gun. It may even be involved in a homicide. I'll bet you that's the first thing that this prior law enforcement officer, loss prevention, I bet that's the first thing he done, is the most common sense, practical thing that he could think of, and that's call a real law enforcement agency and let them take investigative action against this person and see if what they're saying is true and what they've got is for real. Let's see what he says. I know that's what he's going to tell us.
So I went over, checked it out. Making a long story short, I contacted the TBI.
What? Oh, no. No, Mike, let's don't make a long story short. Let's don't make a long story short. You went over and checked it out. You went 400 miles over, you stated before. You traveled 400 miles or so, or 4 hours was it, one or the other. You traveled to check it out. You didn't only check it out, you photographed it, you got the serial numbers, you took it out and shot this stolen firearm, possibly a murder weapon. You took it out and shot it and handled it, correct? No, and then he went to the TBI, he says, how long, Mike? See, that's why we need sworn depositions. That's why we need a court case. That's why we need a lawsuit. So we can put this man under oath. He needs to be under oath and ask him, Mike, when did he call you? Mike, when's the first time you heard about this stolen gun? Mike, how long did it take you after he called you for you to go meet with him? Mike, how many shots did you fire through this gun? How many times did you shoot this gun? Mike, when did you call the police? How long after he first contacted you about this stolen gun? How many months, or was it over a year? How long was it? Was it a year, 2 years? How long was it from the first time he contacted you? Because they can check phone records, they can check Facebook records, they can check messengers. No, it don't just go and contact the TBI.
And this gentleman was kind enough to surrender the gun to them for...
He surrendered the gun. He voluntarily surrendered the gun. The man's in possession of a stolen military firearm, M1 rifle, and he's had it for over 60-some years, him and his dad. And he voluntarily surrendered this gun, a stolen gun that he thinks may even possibly be a murder weapon. Wow, thank you, Mike. We're so glad he surrendered the gun over.
Their inspection and testing. And
let's talk about your testing, Mike. Let's talk about your testing. Let's talk about those bullets, those projectiles that you've got in your safe. Let's talk about those spent casings that you've got in your safe. Let's talk about, is there the possibility that some of those spent casings and bullets, projectiles, may have made their way out to New Hope Road, anywhere out through there? Is there any reason that anyone should ever find any one of these casings that matches that gun on New Hope Road, Mike?
Shortly afterwards, I got a call again from the TBI where they were asking if I had other information I could share. And I told them anything I had would, be fine. And
Oh no, Mike. No, I'd love to go back to that video. I'd love to go to the video. He tells one podcaster or a couple, there's a woman and a man, he's interviewing them, and they said, do you have anything else? And he said, how much do you want? Mike can shovel it out all day long.
When I found the rifle, I was asked if I had any other information, and it was kind of like, well, how much do you want?
Yeah.
And how much do you want?
Yeah.
And
Mike can tell stories as long as they'll stand there and listen to them.
And so,
all this is in my opinion, guys. Let's throw that out there. But once again, I think a lawsuit is going to be the way we're going to have to go on all this. Somebody is going to have to file a suit or a countersuit. We're going to have to get this case into depositions and into a courtroom. This is going to be one of the most famous. This will be bigger than the O.J. Simpson case. When this case is done, it's going to be bigger than the O.J. Simpson case. By the time all the prosecutor, the TBI director, all these expert witnesses, Mike, this other fella that he's about to introduce, this is going to be bigger. When you get to the bottom of it and you get good attorneys involved and you get these people under oath,
I have sent them a list of people that I didn't think were interviewed back in the original investigation.
Oh, they didn't interview them back in the original investigation. So, hey, 58 years later, I mean, what is it? Could they have dementia? Could they have Alzheimer's? Could they, goodness sakes, I'm sure they remember it like it was yesterday. Let's just go talk to them.
Some recordings of some of the interviews that I've done over the years.
Interviews with who, Mike? Interviews with originals? I thought the originals were dead. I thought who you interviewed was grandchildren, children of grandchildren, and so forth. I thought what you had was hearsay. So you're telling us that you've interviewed some of the original people, the original witnesses from back then, that the TBI and the Highway Patrol failed, even though they were after Buford, even though there was rumors back then started by actually law enforcement that didn't like Buford. Even though that was going on, they didn't go try to dig these people up and talk to anybody that they could. Hogwash, Mike, hogwash.
Many things. But later they contacted me again wanting to know if I had any information on Buford's Plymouth Fury 1.
Why don't you tell them about the rounds that you've got in your safe, Mike? Tell them about the empty casings. That'd been something good to tell them. Hey, guys, guess what? I got some empty projectiles from that gun I shot, that stolen gun.
They wanted to know if I knew of another car like it. Well, I knew of one in Montana, one in Minnesota.
Well, that's not hard, Mike. That's not hard. How hard is it to go on eBay and find, or Marketplace, since you like Facebook so good, you just went over from your original profile there to Marketplace and clicked on Plymouth Ferry, 1967. Well, now that took some investigative skills. Let's continue. I'm sorry, guys.
And when I put out the word that I was looking for a vehicle like this, I had one individual that responded in a very positive way. And there's a little story behind that we'll...
Oh, I'm sure there is. We're sure there's a story there, because how else would a podcaster, how else would a YouTuber keep coming out with these videos? You keep them coming, Mike. Keep them coming for me so I can review and critique. I like this too. This gives me material. It's not material that I'm really crazy. My blood pressure's up already. This ain't what I enjoy doing, but let's talk about some more stories. Go ahead.
Tell. And for all those people out there that are saying, oh, there's nothing new in this investigation, if the TBI has done what I suspect that they have done, you're going to be amazed by this.
Oh, yeah, we've been amazed. We've been flabbergasted. Remember what was that word used a while back? Oh, wow, about the autopsy. And then you go over the autopsy and what you call Buford's statement, and there was nothing, absolutely nothing to it. You're reading out of the dictionary the left side of the brain controls the right or some garbage. You skipped over the whole autopsy where it said multiple shots, could have been multiple shots, could have been entrance and exit wounds. You skipped over that, Mike. Goodness sakes.
Yes, because like I say, it is Star Wars.
Okay, I guess what he's trying to show there is one of these expert witnesses, guys. That's a question I'd like to ask. I'd like to ask, how much was each one of these expert witnesses, or their corporations, or their companies, or their organizations, how much were they paid by the state of Tennessee to do testing that the FBI or the ATF could have done? Tennessee, I'm not from there, but you Tennessee residents, you should be complaining that a police agency, if the TBI paid these people anything at all, any money at all, you should be protesting, because this is a service that is free. These blood splatters, these ballistics, it is free from the federal government. Just ask for help and they'll come to you. So we'd first of all like to know how much these four Expert witnesses got paid, if they got paid, and if they didn't get paid, what was their motivation? What was their motivation to do an expert evaluation on blood splatter, on ballistics, on anything at all, crime scene evaluations? What was their motivation if they didn't get paid? Oh, that's right, the most famous case in history. I seen the back of Mike's book history, his newest book, and it said he'd already named one of them. He's already got one of their names on the back of his book. This may be him right here, I'm not sure. Let's continue on.
Type technology, especially back in my day when you didn't even dream of these things.
You didn't do nothing, Mike. Quit being a blowhard. You didn't do anything. Show us a newspaper article of an arrest you made. Show us a newspaper article of a burglary you solved, or a bank robbery, or a kidnapping. Show us anything at all. Show us one case, Mike, in the newspaper where you did something.
So let's get on with the program. And my special guest, Tim Valentine. Tim, welcome to the program. Glad you're here.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great. Tell us a little bit about where you live.
Okay, guys, it looks like I was wrong. I thought he was going to introduce the guy that had possession of the stolen gun that him and Mike conspired to go out and shoot, and all this conspiracy that they had going on between the two of them with this story. I actually thought it was going to be the guy with the gun. Let's continue on, but it looks to me like, with that car sitting there, that this is probably going to be somebody that actually just owns a car. He's probably just an innocent bystander, somebody that happens to have a car the same year and make and model as that Buford Pusser had that day. Let's see what we got. Sorry to build it up. I thought we was going to get to meet that.
And about your car.
I live in Canton, Georgia, which is north of Atlanta. I purchased this car from a friend about 8 years ago, and he purchased it from a man who got it from the estate of a man named Ernest Hill, who was a Georgia Bureau of Investigation car agent. And I did a mechanical on it. It's a 1967 Fury 1. It's basically the same car as the ambush car. It's just it's a K code, so it's a real police car.
Yeah, I understand that you found some of Hill's personal papers in the car when you got it.
Oh, Lord, please don't tell me that Mike's going to say this is daggone Buford's car and they put Bondo over the bullet hose and a windshield in it and it's back in. Oh, my Lord.
Trunk was full of stuff. And I tried to reach out to his family to, give this stuff back to him, some of the paperwork, and I haven't got back, any back from them.
Maybe I can help you with that a little later.
Okay.
Now, of course, the backstory to all this is that the TBI contacted me. I wanted to know if I knew anything about the whereabouts of the ambush car, the one that Buford and Pauline were actually in that morning.
Hey, boys, for you guys in Tennessee, I would be embarrassed. I've never had no dealings with the TBI. But I would be embarrassed to be a law enforcement agency and have to reach out to a YouTuber, to a podcaster, to a loss prevention officer. I would be embarrassed, Mr. David Roush, that this man, if this guy is telling the truth, that the TBI had to reach out to a man called Mike Elam, a man that wrote a book and that has tormented the Pusser family for 15 to 20 years. Even stories that maybe lead to something down the road to even more, because I've got a phone call today that was pretty interesting. There's a lot. The TBI may have been persuaded to look the other direction because of something that may have been going on. So this may be before this is over with, this may be a bigger case than Buford Pusser's case ever was. If anything of this is the truth, if this pans out, you guys may have been pointed in a direction away from the direction you should have been going. And that's going to be so embarrassing if that's the way this turns out. And it very possibly, if you look at my investigative work, the little bit that I've done, if you can't tell what we're capable of, you guys, I believe, have been pointed in the wrong direction, and you fell for it. And it's going to be so embarrassing. They will probably dissolve the TBI when this Buford Pusser case is over one day. Mark my words, guys. This is Mike Elam is saying that the TBI contacted him wanting to know if he knew where he could find a car, if he knew about this, if he knew. This is their chief detective. This is their lead man. This is their investigator. This is who the TBI got their case from, if you can believe that. Let's continue on.
And I told him I'd heard 3 stories, one being that it was sold to a gentleman in Louisiana, and that there was no VIN number, so I couldn't trace it beyond that.
No VIN number? Nobody thought in 1967, after there was an ambush and a killing, a murder, a homicide, and a man's face is shot off, there wasn't a TBI officer, and now the TBI is going back 58 years and following anything. The Highway Patrol or the TBI, nobody thought to get a license plate number, a VIN number often of a vehicle. The first thing you would get on an accident scene, the first thing you would get on a traffic ticket or anything would be the tag number. You can always track the tag back down. Guys, you talk about the Keystone Cops. The Keystone Cops are gonna look like.
Then I heard that Buford had it buried near Crump, there in Tennessee, not far from Adams.
Yeah, that's a good one. Buford went out and buried his car. Why would he bury it, Mike, if they're not onto him? If he did it and they're not onto him, why would he go bury his car? Wouldn't that look suspicious? Where's your car, Buford? Well, I don't know. It just disappeared one day. It's probably buried somewhere. Yeah, Mike, that's a good one. Let's go ahead. Blow that onion sack up. Give us another one. What's the third one?
Bill. But then I talked to some of Rod Province's relatives. And of course, they said that he and Rod were good friends.
See, here you're talking to children of grandchildren of grandchildren, guys. He's not, I guess, I don't know who this Rob Province is. I'm not up on this. Again, Sheila and I were not Buford Pusser fans or foes. This is all new. These names, I'm not familiar with these names, but I guarantee you, where he says he's talking to somebody's children or grandchildren, I guarantee you that person is dead. So now we've got hearsay information.
And that Buford contacted him, said he'd taken the car out of commission there at the sheriff's office and wanted to store it out there at Rod's location. So Rod got the permission of the guy that owned the property next to his and asked him if he could park it there. And I was told that it was there for some time. But then they took the engine, the transmission, everything out of it, and took the body down to Selmer Salvage and had it.
There you go. That's what the car is in salvage, guys. The car is in a junkyard. The car is now probably a coffee cup or something, a military tin can coffee cup. Who knows what they turned it into? That car is long gone. That major piece of evidence, if there was a crime committed there by Buford Pusser that day, that evidence is long gone.
Crushed. And of course, when I contacted one of the people that had worked there at one time, I was told that he had said that they didn't keep VIN numbers back then, that the state didn't require it, so there was no record that it actually ended up there, so we don't know. Well, then they asked if I knew of a car that was similar to his.
Yeah, that's good. Let's just go get a look-alike. That we can do that. Let's get a look-alike.
And I told him I knew of 2 or 3. One being in Montana. I think the other one was in Minnesota. And then, of course, I'd run on to yours through my Facebook page, my fishing hole, if you.
Yeah. Yeah, let's run into it on our fishing hole. I told you he went to Marketplace where he went. Guys, I've got to interrupt ever so often. I'm sorry to do that. Sometimes I don't even want to. But in order for the fair act use on videos on YouTube, you're allowed to commentate, you're allowed to evaluate and different things on other people's videos, just like they can do mine. I don't mind them doing mine, but you're allowed to do that. But you can't show somebody's entire video without at least talking about it or pointing certain things out. So that's why I'm having to interrupt here.
Will, I was a little bit deceitful at first with you because
Really? Guys, who would have thought that Mike Elam would have ever been deceitful with anybody? I am totally shocked.
wasn't sure exactly what your position was on the Pusser story. And, you know, a lot of people, this goes both ways. Some are really positive about helping and some don't want to help at all. So
Why does it have to be help or not help, Mike? Why can't it just be tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may? Why does it have to be one side or the other? Some people are actually, forget your sign there, truth has no agenda. Your agenda has no truth. Why can't it just be people that actually wants to know the truth, that are so curious just to know what happened? But it's not hard to see that your agenda is selling books and running a podcast and a bus tour.
I recall, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I told you that I might be interested in buying the car from you, but that I lived out of state and I'd have to send a couple of representatives down to check it out for me. And you told me that was fine. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And then I leveled with you and said, look, I know that the TBI is looking for this car, and I was wondering if they could possibly get a look at it because they're wanting to see one just like his. And, of course, you responded in a positive way, said send them on down. Well, you tell me what the next thing that happened was.
Well, I received a call from an agent, and I believe he was retiring, and he referred me to another one called me. He said another guy would call me. So he called me, and then they set up an appointment, and they sent some contractors that had this elaborate equipment to measure the car for exact measurements. They flew in from Atlanta and got around.
Now, guys, if you ain't realized it by now, there's your 1,000-page report. Remember, we talked about the budget in Congress that time where they had to haul all them pages in two-wheelers. They were so many pages to this report, so they could just overrun them with pages of garbage where they couldn't get down to the nitty-gritty of everything. That's what this is. By the time you read this report, you're going to know how long a Plymouth Ferry is. You're going to know how high it is off the ground. You're going to know the tire size. You're going to know everything about this car. And that's going to probably take up 30 to 50 pages by the time they get through telling you the length of the seats, the material the seats are made out of. There's some of your 1,000-page report is things like this right here. 58 years later, they're going to tell you what a Plymouth Ferry is like. Now, they couldn't do it back in 1967 when they had the car right there, or they couldn't even take the car and confiscate it and say, hey, we're going to keep this car until we find out what's going on here, and put it in a garage and tarp it over and just keep it there. That's evidence. That's what you would keep. You know, somebody asked an interesting question on one of these videos, and that was, do they still have the clothes? They're out here running around the country looking for a look-alike car. How about Pauline's bloody clothes? How about Buford's bloody clothes? How about their shoes? You know, they showed a pair of shoes of Pauline's in the floorboard there. How about that pair of shoes? Are them in a paper bag somewhere in an evidence room in protective custody for the TBI? Do they have all of this stuff still in custody? Because that is evidence. That is evidence of a crime. A homicide was committed in that car, and she had them clothes on. Who knows that we might need them later on to test against? Where is all that stuff? See, guys, there's so many questions that we're never going to know the answer to until we get these people under oath in a courtroom and a good defense attorney there and asking them questions about all these little bitty things. They're going to give you the measurements of a car, fellas. Listen to this man.
Car, and they measured my car in my shop.
Can you tell me something about what all they did, how they set the camera up, how long it took to do the exterior?
Well, it took about 3 hours total. They measured both sides, front and back. They actually put one inside and measured all the inside too. And it took right at 3 hours.
Ooh.
Did they explain what they would probably or possibly do with all this information?
Well, they were limited what they could tell me, but what they were doing was all that information they would give to the computer techs, and he said that the doors would open, the wheels would turn, doors, you know, it would be a working AI car, basically, is what they did, made an AI car out of it.
Yeah. With the software and the technology they have now, they can take all those measurements, make an exact replica.
Mike, they can put a man on the moon, but that don't mean we got a AI replica of that person. We need the original. We need the original car. We need what was taking place, what happened in that car. We don't need a lookalike. We don't need AI. They had their chance. In 1967, the TBI had their chance to do whatever they wanted to do with Buford, to put him through whatever test they wanted to put him through. Did they give him a polygraph? Was he ever offered a polygraph? Let's get to that. Let's don't get with making up evidence. Let's don't get to paying expert witnesses to write reports and do AI reenactments. Let's talk about what happened then, not 58 years later.
On screen with the computer software that we have today, they didn't have back then. I'm not an expert on this. I have to contact the experts a lot of times to find out what the process is, but it's my understanding that they can then actually recreate pretty much what the ambush would have been like.
Now, you can't recreate what the ambush was like, Mike, because nobody was there that told what the ambush was like except Buford Pusser. She's dead. I would assume that the other three, one's in prison probably, and I think the other three are probably dead because Buford Pusser said he would get revenge. And if you'll watch the story there, when he's been interviewed, Sheila's doing a video, a tribute to Buford with that guy, I forget his name, Bonds, Eddie Bonds, I believe it was, and he asked Buford when he asked if he wanted revenge or something. Buford may have very well been guilty of something, but it wasn't his wife. But he vowed that he would get revenge on those that killed his wife. And my understanding, again, I've not investigated that much, guys, but my understanding is there's 2 or 3 there that's come up deceased, and nobody knows exactly who did it to them.
And that is probably what the TBI wanted to do with the car. Of course, you and I spoke a little bit later, and you confirmed that they had indeed been by there and scanned your car.
Yeah, they came by, and like I say, they couldn't tell me a great deal because I don't know if these guys had any information. They were basically techs, you know.
Computer geeks.
Well, they were the camera guys, so I don't know. What you told me what that camera was, what it was, that measurement device was called.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
But at any rate, then you left and you hadn't heard anything more.
No, and then I saw. I've been watching yours. What you been listening to your podcast, and other than that, I've heard nothing back from them.
Well, hopefully, all this will work out to where some of this stuff may be in the TBI.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt some of this stuff's going to be in the report, guys. It has to be. They've had to pay. They've paid these guys to go and look at this car, measure this car, film this car. He said they spent 3 hours there. 3 hours. 3 hours on a 58-year-old case. Did they get what they needed in 3 hours to go put something into the computer to make an AI video? Are we going to have all this in the report? Of course we are. How many pages is this going to consist of?
File, and you're to be congratulated for stepping up and doing the right thing, because I know,
Mike, the man happens to have a 1967 Plymouth Ferry. Come on, Mike. Stepping up and doing the right thing. That's not the car, Mike. That's a look-alike. That's a replica. That's a mate. That's one of the thousands of Plymouth Ferries that was made in 1967.
well, a lot of people would not have done that. You're one of several people that I spoke with while I was gathering information and trying to make a case that Buford probably killed Pauline.
Well, Buford probably killed Pauline 58 years later.
And several people, just like yourself, agreed to give a hand, share some things that they knew, some things that they had, whatever. And so a lot of people say, well, it's just Elam out here trying to do all this stuff. Well, no, it's not. It's people like you and several others that came forward. I'm just kind of the guy that gathered the information and put it all.
You're just the lead investigator. You should be the director of the TBI. I'll tell you what, as much as you've manipulated Mr. Davison and Mr. Roush, you are a one-man show, sir. You really need to be commended for what you have done.
All in one place and tried to make sense out of it all. But at any rate, on August 29th, they had a press conference, and with all the information that they did get, they said it was most likely that Buford was the person that.
How would you guys like it? How would you guys like to have your dad or your mom or your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister? How would you like to have somebody in your family, most likely, that somebody committed murder and they're dead? And they're dead. They can't defend themselves. They can't speak out. Buford lived for 7 years after that. He didn't die till 1974. They had 7 years, 1967 to 74. 7 years. Polygraphs, anything they wanted to do, any kind of evidence they wanted to collect. They could have done anything. They didn't do it. It wasn't there then. It's not there now. The stories are there now. Mike is a storyteller. Mike could be a great book writer on fictional stories. He knows how to tell a story. But telling a story doesn't make something real. It doesn't make it a fact.
I murdered Pauline.
And when those guys stood up there on that stage, and you can't blame Mike, you can't blame Baldwin. Nobody made them do that. They did that of their own free will. They could see them limelights. They could see their name. They could see that fame, that name recognition. Nobody did that to them except themselves. Nobody forced them to get up there and say, hey, if he was alive today, we'd charge him with murder. Hey, guys, he's not alive today. So since he's not alive today, why would we make an accusation? Why would we make a comment like that? But he's not alive today. If he was alive today, that would be different. But he's not alive today, so you just condemned a man's reputation, a man that had never been convicted of a crime in his life. You just convicted him of, in the public opinion, as a murderer of his wife. Imagine.
That file will be released soon, and it's going to be an interesting read. I learned a lot just from a 4-page statement that I got a hold of, and from the imaging that they did for Pauline's autopsy and the autopsy report.
Yeah, that autopsy was real informative, guys. It told you that Pauline was 33 years old. She weighed 51 pounds now, and she's got mold all over. Said she had a fractured nose at some point in her life, and her head was blown off. At least one back to front trajectory by a high velocity rifle. An M1 is not a high velocity rifle, I have found out. A lot of things there. But this autopsy told us that she'd been shot, she'd been killed, and she's 33 years old. That's basically what the autopsy. Now, what do they concentrate on during the press conference? Mr. Davis and Mr. Roush? Oh, she's had a fractured nose at some time in her life. She must been in a domestic. Well, she could have been, or that fractured nose, what was it, hairline fracture? Was it a complete breakage of the nose where she would have required medical attention to be healed? Did her nose need to be reset by a physician? What's the depth of that? That's why we needed an independent person there at that autopsy, rather than having to dig her up again someday when these lawsuits start coming out. Then if an independent medical examiner or pathologist would have been there, that would have kept that from happening, because the only thing we got to go by is the state's medical examiner. We're going by the state's chief law enforcement officer, the director of the TBI. We're going by that part of the state's chief prosecutor, the attorney general in that area. We're going by what he says. Well, look what these two guys have said. Do we really want to go by the medical examiner's comments? Or do we want to look at it for ourselves, or have an independent medical examiner and pathologist to look at it? Wow.
Far, that's the only thing I've seen out there. But, it disagrees with Buford's story in so many ways.
Disagrees with Buford's story, guys. Once again, I'm gonna always elaborate. I'm always going to comment on this until I see Sheila and I see a signed document with Buford Pusser's signature on it that says this is his statement. As of right now, we have only seen a third-party statement where somebody says Buford said this, Buford says that. We haven't seen nothing where Buford has signed, it's been dated and witnessed by anybody else. So when they refer to Buford's statement, they're referring to somebody probably in the TBI. They don't even have at the bottom that we've seen who wrote that statement, who typed that statement, who printed that statement, who transcribed that statement, if it was transcribed. And then for Buford to read over and review and make sure that's what he said, and then acknowledge that, yeah, here, I'll put my signature on it. That's what I said. That's not out there, guys.
In that he would tell the media one thing and tell TBI investigators something completely.
See, guys, Mike knows he's on video here. Mike is making you guys a video. He's acting like he's talking to this fella, but he's trying to get this out there to you, that he would tell TBI one thing and he would tell the media another. Guys, believe the media. Believe whatever you can hear with Buford Pusser's own voice, with his own face. Believe what he says, not what somebody says that he said. We don't have nothing like that.
Completely different. For instance, with that car, he said he parked on the right side of the road, that he didn't know that they were anywhere around when they pulled up, stopped on the left side of the road, saying that there was enough room between those two cars for a third car to possibly gone in between them. Well, all I had to work with was the media reports.
Mike is not even going by police reports. They didn't even do a police report of this. And Mike is saying he's going by the media reports, guys. This is the reenactment that they're talking about. This is the guy that done the reenactment.
And so I assumed that when he said that he reached out and grabbed the barrel of the gun, that they were sitting close enough that he could just reach out there and grab it. But when you read his statement, it's totally different. He said that...
His statement. When you read his statement, remember that.
He had to get out of the car and lunge across...
Wow, had to get out of the car. Maybe that's where some of that blood came from that's all over the hood, Mike. You reckon?
The road, grabbed the barrel of the gun, and in the process, he was yelling at the driver, get out of here, get out of here. And that the driver actually had to start the engine of the car again.
Hey, Mike, this is Buford Pusser. Buford, what's that old Jackie Gleason in that movie, Smokey and the Bandit? He said he uses some language there, but this is Buford Blankenpusser you're talking about, Mike. What do you think? Where do you think he got that reputation from? You think he was some little chicken that just curled up in the car and hid? You can't see Buford Pusser actually being Buford Pusser? That's what he was noted for. That's what that man's reputation was. He was a bad butt. He wasn't like Mike Elam that sits behind a video camera and talks about everybody else or talks about their family and puts them down. This guy went hands-on. He didn't care. And especially with his wife dead.
To take off, and that's when he lost the grip to the gun. And entire ambush, as he explained it, is so different than what we have read in newspapers and magazines that he would tell all of them. And it is.
Isn't that funny, guys? Which one would you believe? Would you believe a statement that has been written by a third party and says Buford done this, or Buford said he done that, or Buford said the sky was falling? Would you believe what a third party has written in a so-called statement? Or would you believe what Buford Pusser told the news media? What he told them with his own mouth? Which one would you rather believe?
Entirely different from what we saw in the movie Walking Tall. What?
Hey guys, you cannot go by a movie. Mike, I thought you're the one that knew this. You can't. You're the one that always says, quit worrying about this movie. Why do you always bring these Walking Tall movies up? Why does Mr. Davison bring the Walking Tall movie? He says in his press conference he don't have time to discuss everything there is to discuss on this case. It's too big, too huge, voluminous. It's too voluminous to discuss. And then he wants to talk about the Walking Tall series and remakes. We've got time to talk about a remake, but ask him if the gun matches the autopsy, and he says, see the report.
A lot of people think that movie was almost like a documentary, that it told the real story, and it was far from it. Did you get a chance to see Walking Tall?
I've watched them all, and as a kid, you're like, he was a hero, cleaning up some bad guys as a kid, Oh, yeah, I watched them.
Oh, yeah. And
for somebody that hates him so much and hates his movies, you sure are got some kind of...
in the movie they had the ambush taking place during daylight hours when it was
daylight, Mike. It was break of day. Daylight was breaking. I don't know if you're ever out of bed before 5 o'clock in the morning, but your sun starts coming up early. You can see the sun rising in the horizon, Mike. It's definitely not at night. Your prosecutor, Mr. Davison, said it was in the night hours. Mr. Roush said it was in the evening hours. What do you got to say about that? Is that, we want to talk about statements being incorrect and what people says. Your two chief people there, one of them says it happened at night. One of them says it happened in the evening. What's the analogy for that? How do we equate that to this investigation 58 years ago? How much faith should we put in the investigative skills of these people?
Actually dark. Just so many things that are heading at the second ambush site, leaping over an embankment and landing out in the middle of a field where he got out.
I thought you didn't equate nothing to the Walking Tall movie, Mike. You're describing what took place in the movie. You're describing a scene in the movie. In that movie, you had 6'6", 300-pound Buford Pusser crawling over the seat and coming out the passenger side. We know that didn't happen. We know a 6'6", 300-pound man didn't go across that seat. He come out that driver's side door and went around that car to check on Pauline. You're going by the movie, Mike.
The car and went around and drug Pauline out of the car. She was in the floorboard. But in his statement, he says that she was in the seat and he pulled her over. And
What statement, Mike? What statement are you looking at?
And when he got shot, he fell on top of her. Neither of them were in the floorboard. But also, like in the statement he made.
Make it up there. Take you a minute. Take you a breath. Think real good. It'll come to you. You just head down one of them lanes that you've went in some of these 143 videos that you've made. You'll get it. One story you tell is bound to match up with one of them other videos you've made over the years.
To the media, he said that he fell to the floorboard himself, and that's probably what saved his life. Would you think a man that size could fall between?
Would you think that a man that watched his wife's head get blown off and has people shooting bullets at him, would you think that he could remember everything as it happened, when it happened, how it happened, why it happened? Would you think that, Mike? See, Mike lives in a fantasy land, guys. Mike watches TVs. He probably a big Rambo fan and sits there and watches Rambo and different ones, and he really gets into that because he's never done nothing for real. Mike, was you ever in the military? Did you ever serve in the military, the armed forces of the United States? That would be a question I'd like to ask. Was you ever even in the military? That's a question for somebody to ask, Mr. Elam. That would be a first question. I don't think Mike's probably ever even served in the military, much less anything such as a shootout or even a fight. I don't think Mike's ever been in a real fight.
No. The seat and the floorboard?
Well, if he did, he probably couldn't get out of it.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, sir. You're exactly. No 300-pound, 6'6" man's going to go across that seat and come out the passenger side with his wife laying there. He got out the driver's side and come across.
Been a main leg.
I just can't imagine a person as tall and as weighing what he did, around 250 pounds.
Plus the radio equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of equipment in that car.
Well, then you had her legs that would have should have been down in that part of the floorboard. So I don't know why he told two different stories to.
How do we know he did, Mike? Show us that statement, Mike. Hold Buford Pusser's statement up for all of us to see. Hold it up there where we can see, and let us see Buford Pusser's signature at the bottom of it, acknowledging that what is in that typewritten statement, written by a third party, that we can know that that's his statement.
Two different groups, one to the TBI and yet another to the media. And then, of course, there's the walking tall version. So, well, Tim, you have joined a group of people that stepped forward and participated and contributed to the investigation, I imagine. So I want to congratulate you for doing that and just say thanks.
All right, guys, there you have it. Thank you, Mr. Elam. Thank you for a wonderful, entertaining show, because that's what it was. And I'm sure it's going to get better with the when the report is ever released. I heard today that the report is $400 if you want to pay for it to look at. Otherwise, it's not going to be out for 6 months. And when it is, you have to go to the college and look at it in 4-hour increments. We're 4 hours away from the nearest Tennessee university that's probably going to have it. So it's not going to be, we're not going to be able to do that. So we'll have to wait till it comes out online. Guys, this is the biggest miscarriage of justice that's taken place in a long time. Now, these people, these expert witnesses, these officials, they all, along with Mr. Elam and Mr. Baldwin. Now, Mr. Baldwin and Mr. Elam, I'm not going to, these guys are out to make a buck. These guys are trying to make $1. Now, Mike should be in jail for possession of a stolen gun. Now, that's without saying. Hopefully, somebody will get a petition up or get the ATF involved. Somebody will get something done, because he's violated the law. We can't prove nothing on Buford Pusser 58 years later, but they can prove it on him. He's admitted to it. Now, he didn't in this video. He sure changed his tune on his videos now, but they're all taped. People's got them in a vault somewhere where they can go back in case any of them's altered or changed. He's admitted to it. He needs to be charged. But you can't blame Mike and Baldwin for writing books and trying to persuade the TBI and Mr. Davison to go a particular way so they can be free from lawsuits and some of the allegations and slanderous remarks that they've made against Buford and his family over the years. You can't blame them, but you can certainly blame educated and experienced law enforcement officers and prosecutors for falling into that groove. And they did. They bought that story hook, line, and sinker, and they thought that they were going to come out here and make these allegations and America was just going to sit still and nothing. Guys, you've woken. Buford Pusser was not only a giant, he's got a giant following. I don't care if he was a midget. I don't care if Buford Pusser was a midget. The American people just does not like to see people bullied. They don't like to see people mistreated. They take up for the underdog. You should be able to see that in politics today. People doesn't like to see other people bullied and just pushed around. And now that's what they're doing to Buford Pusser. So all I can say is wake up, America. Wake up. This could be you. This could be me. Someday I've got an interesting video that I'm going to make, and you guys are really going to be flabbergasted. So just wait, it's coming. But this could happen to anybody at any time. Contrary to what you may be thinking, when we put this much power in people's positions and people's authority, we're messing up. You cannot believe just because these people wear suits and have badges that they're actually all honest. There are dishonest people out there with badges, with degrees, with all these different things. I'm not pointing my finger at anybody in particular. Maybe someday we'll get this case in court or get it in depositions where a person can be sworn under oath and under penalty of perjury. We can ask questions and get some answers, truthful answers, not answers that's standing behind a podium at a press conference. You can't charge somebody with perjury for what they say behind a podium at a press conference. They're not under oath. They can't perjure themselves, but daggone, they can in depositions or interviews with law enforcement agencies. Thank you, guys. Catch you next time.